Okay, we're calling the meeting to order for the Parks and Recreation Committee, May 17th, 2021. Welcome, everyone, on this bright sunny day, and welcome to Dawn for her first meeting. So,
thank you very much.
And we need to take a roll call vote. So why don't we just go down the line?
Dawn Wittenberg here.
Judy Iverson here.
Mary Larson here.
Jeanette June here.
Larry Schultz here. And I don't believe we have anybody else joining us today, so we have
Correct.
2 absent, Claudio and Brian Vincent. Okay. First item on the agenda are the minutes from the last meeting. Did everybody have a chance to review those? If so, a motion would be in order to accept those minutes.
I move to accept.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion's been made by Don, second by Mary, to approve the minutes from our last meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, the next item on our agenda, tonight we have a presentation where we have Kristin Schneider, is that
Yep, you're right.
okay? From Carver County Library to tell us a little bit about what's going on with the library these days.
Yes, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. So yes, my name is Kristin Schneider. I'm the Youth Services Librarian downstairs at the Victoria Library, and we're open again. Hooray! So I have come today to kind of give you an update of what we have planned for summer reading program, because it's not that far away. It's kind of crazy to think about that June is a few weeks away. So we are doing a lot of story walks. I'm doing them like every other Wednesday out here. And if you don't know what a story walk is, they're really big panels for picture books. So one page is a panel, and then you set them up in the order of how you would read the book. And we do this to promote literacy, obviously, and families really enjoy. We did this a lot last year because that was one of the only programming things that we were able to do during the pandemic. And so I normally set them down by the bandstand and have them kind of curl up. And so then families can read and kind of curl up to kind of the back of the library, and they seem to enjoy that. So we have a lot of different ones that we're going to have this summer, so I'm excited about that. We also have virtual programming because we're not allowed to do in-person quite yet. We're hoping for fall. And so we have virtual story times that are Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:30 a.m. And then we have Monday nights at 6:30. And we're hoping to continue at least one of those time slots into fall, since we have opened up the virtual box, right? And we're doing, our theme for summer reading program is tales and tales. So like fairy tales and tales of animals. I probably should have done a PowerPoint so you could get a better visual, but you understand what I mean. So a lot of our things are that we came up with as the youth services team for summer reading program are animal themed. We do have some fairy tale-ish kind of stuff as well. So we have a virtual pet show that's going to be on Facebook where people can submit pictures of their pets. I'm not sure what the prize is because I'm not the one that's doing that program, but I'm sure it'll be fun, whatever it is. We do summer reading program to help with summer slide, and especially because these kids have been doing a lot of, virtual and in person or a mix of the two. We always do the summer reading program to make sure that they keep up their reading skills over the summer. So pandemic or not, we're still doing it. So we have these activity sheets that I'll just show you real quick. I know, would it help if I pass them around so you could see them, or do you just want me to kind of describe them? Does that work? I know I don't have a PowerPoint, but we have a pre-reader, so like the little kids, where it kind of looks like a bingo sheet, but it's not. They do 5 activities on here, and these are all based on the 5 early literacy skills. So one of these is, for write, color or scribble the picture of a giraffe. So we have a picture of a giraffe on the back. And if they do 5 of these, they get a free book. So I'll have a big book prize book or a cart downstairs that the kids will be able to pick from and choose their free book. So that's for the pre-readers, so birth to 4. And then we have the reader card, which is for kids ages 5 to 11. So this really looks like a bingo sheet, but it's not. So same thing, 5 activities. And some of the activities on there are do an act of kindness for your pet or a pet you know. So different things like that. And they do 5 of those and they get a book prize as well, free book. We have one for teen as well. We started that last year. And so 12 to 18. And so they do 5 activities as well. Are you seeing a theme?
Yeah.
5? We got to
Yeah,
keep this
yeah.
straight, so we're keeping 5. And so for one of theirs, it's find a book recommendation on the Goodreads app. So there's a few different things that they can do on there. So they will get a free teen book as well. The other sheets that we have used consistently over the years are, this is called a read, write, draw sheet. This is for like that pre-reader and reader age. And so they, depending on if they can write or not, we have both options. They can draw a picture or they can write a good summary of each book that they read, and there is no limit on these. They can turn in as many as they want, and they get put into a lottery, which I'll tell you in a little bit because there's an app that's kind of with this. So we do have sheets, but there is like an online app that they can do if they choose not to do sheets. So they will go into a lottery, and if they are picked, they can either choose a Barnes & Noble gift card or another free book. So this goes for the teen review form as well, except the teens, they need to write something, not draw something, right? So for the teens specifically, we have a teen bookmark design contest, and we're doing this for each branch. So if you know any teens in your life that would be interested, that would be awesome, because the past few years we haven't had a ton of entries from Victoria, so I'd love to have some participants. That would be awesome. And then we print them out and give out the ones that are chosen for each branch. We give those out during October, which is called Teen-tober, so special month for teens. So that's all related to that. So all these sheets, as I was trying to say, a lot of people, a lot of families still like having like a physical paper, right? I myself am in that vein with my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old, so I get it. We have an app that is associated with our summer reading program called Beanstack, and they can go in, the families can go in, they can register each of their children, and they can do all the things that I just talked about in this app, so paper free. So they have that option as well. So those are the forms and the app. Some other things that are kind of going on for like take and makes, because we have these craft kits that we've been giving out every month. You might have seen them outside when we were doing curbside pickup. Now we have them in the library, and a lot of them are associated with super story times. There was a kindness one that was just a super story time, so we have that. It's like a Mayflower kit that they can make. Those are all free for people to pick up. And then we have Lego challenges. We have virtual book buddies, so those are for varying ages, like elementary school and teen, that we do over Zoom, so that's been really fun. Just a lot of different stuff that we're trying out this summer just to see how it goes. There's a kinder concert one that is, it will be registration only because it's associated with the Friends of the Minnesota Orchestra, so I'm really excited about this one because they actually get, it's a pretty extensive kit. They get musical instruments in it and a lot of other things that go along with the book One Dog Canoe by Mary Casanova. So we're really excited to see what comes of that, because we have the ability to provide 150 due to the legacy amendment and that funding. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. But in general, I'm just excited to be open again and to be able to talk to families, recreate those connections, and being able to kind of be outside and offer those story walks and stuff as well. And then we'll see what fall brings. So does anybody have any questions? That's just a kind of, I tried to make a short synopsis. I probably went longer, but there's a lot to talk about. This is our busiest season, so.
Any questions for Kristin?
I was going to say, now, you did some of this last summer.
Yep.
About how many kids participated? Or
I don't have the numbers. I probably should have prepared that, but sorry. I will say across the system last year, just due to everybody being really cautious and the pandemic, numbers were definitely down. Almost, I don't really want to say a number because I'm probably going to have it wrong, but it was drastically like low compared to what we've done in previous summers. Because typically I've been here 2 years at Victoria Library specifically, and it's a very young family-based branch, so it's really busy during the summer, so, for what I've seen, and with story times, when we used to do them in person. So I'm really excited to kind of see what happens this summer, since we're actually open, and just being able to see everybody and get them going with all the activity forms and the app and everything. So.
Okay, anything else? I guess the reason that Kristin was here is some of the departments come and share, so we know what's going on in some of the other areas. And
Yep.
it seems like there's probably opportunities to utilize some of our parks and
Yep.
some of our recreation facilities with the library, so.
You're right. So for Family Fun Night, I'm working with Holly. So I'll be putting up a story walk during that. For when they're doing lunchtime tunes in the bandstand, I've worked with Holly to kind of make sure that at least I think there's 3. I think there's 3 lunchtime tunes, 1 a month. So I've worked with her to make sure it's okay that I have a story walk going on at the same time. So we really appreciate our partnership with Parks as well, because it's been wonderful, really easy to work with, especially because I'm kind of just learning the lay of the land still as far as how to book and all that other stuff. So it's been great.
Okay, well, thank you for being here this evening.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Have a good rest
Sounds
of your
fun.
meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristin.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is probably some of the meat of our meeting tonight, and that's the capital improvement plan ranking and priority discussion. And Ann had sent out materials and thank you. I believe everybody at the meeting here completed the items, which I think we probably all found wasn't the easiest task, but we did the best we could with the information we had. And Ann sent out some additional pieces for us to define what some of the projects were. So Ann, you want to take it from there?
Sure, thank you, Larry. And just, by the way, I also left you a larger sheet with the final rankings in them. It's hard to read those little ones, so I thought this might help a little bit as we go through this. So, as you know, you guys have been working on this for several months. We started with the identification of projects, and we ended up with 33 of them. We then also have gone through our ranking criteria, and based on the information that you guys shared at the last meeting, we developed 7 categories of ranking, aligns with city goals: regulatory or contract, safety, or is on a replacement schedule, demand for service, residential benefit, job creation, and increase in demographics served. So with those 33 projects, you were asked to rank them from 1 to 5 based on each of those categories. And so this, we will get into the list, but first I want to do a little recap of what tonight hopefully will bring. So I would like to go through all the rankings and show you where we're at. And I've got them in 3 tiers. So I've done a top 1 tier, the next 2 tiers, and then the final tier, the 3rd tier, and it's all based on rankings, kind of in that, I think like this one had 9, the next one had 12, and I think the final one had 12 different projects. But I tried to kind of categorize them based on your input into that ranking system. Then when we get through that, I was certainly, you guys may have questions about specific projects that were on that list. And I know, Dawn, you're relatively new and you may have a whole lot of questions about these, but so we'll have a chance to go through them. And then I think there will be opportunity for you to, take a look at each of these and to kind of have that discussion about should something be within that top rank? Should it be lower? Should something come up? I will say that overall, I'm not extremely surprised with what ended up in the top project category. There were a couple that I was like, oh, that's very interesting. But, overall, I thought it was, there weren't too many surprises for me. So, with that, so the first tier, and if people have questions, feel free to interject. So the first one coming out of this, obviously, the outdoor pickleball courts ranked 1. The playground replacement schedule, which is already an existing CIP. The Lakeside Estates Park Phase 2 is an existing CIP. Lions Tennis Court Rehab is an existing CIP. The Lions Shelter number 2 rehabilitation is a new one on the list. Bayfront Plaza expansion, which is the area kind of where the gravel park or the gravel piece is down here. What would like to have happen is to put pervious pavers along this area and kind of make it more ADA accessible than what we have now.
And can I ask a question?
Yep.
Just about, when you say pervious, can you explain that?
Pervious means water runs through them.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So for like the bandstand, all the pavers that are down there, we had to do that for water, stormwater
Yeah, yeah.
management purposes.
Got it.
And we'd have to do that up here too. So, the water access downtown, excuse me, is a new one that is not in the current CIP. The boardwalk replacement for trails is in the CIP. And then the Holy Family, high school tennis courts, which we have a partnership with. We've always been responsible for maintenance of it, but we've never, most of the time it's small maintenance dollars that we pay to them. But there certainly is a cost to having those tennis courts there. So I know a couple of years ago, they redid a portion of them, and in the near future, they're gonna be needing to do, some additional work on it. So it's a good idea, to actually have it within the CIP, so. Does anybody have any questions on the first round or first tier?
So in synopsis, most of these were existing.
A lot of them were.
Yeah, and that's when I was ranking, I went, well, they've got to be high because they're there already, like playground replacement, it's there, it's got to happen. I was thinking contractually and safety-wise and those kinds of things, okay.
Yes. So like I said, really the only ones that were not in here or were in the existing CIP was the outdoor pickleball courts, and I don't know if you were influenced by your group or not. I'm not really sure. That's something you might want to have a conversation about. The Lions Shelter number 2 rehab, and then the water access downtown was the other one out of the top 3. So moving into the next category, again, not real surprising. Some of these are in the existing CIP, and a lot of them are not. But we'll start with the future park construction. When you guys approve park dedication, which we'll be seeing a park later on the agenda tonight that you guys had previously approved, that sort of like Lakeside Estates, we're sort of obligated to have to construct those at some point in time. Future land for a community park, Goodman Park construction, which is one of the items on the list. Field fencing for large parks. Replace lights at Lions Park was on. Bayfront recreation amenity on the list. Alliance Park re-envision, that is not. ball fields and soccer fields, not specifically on the list, but when we do neighborhood parks, we usually include them in the park design. Security improvements to parks, disc golf, land for Lions Park expansion, and then a splash pad. So a great majority of these not on the list.
Not on in the current, but
Right.
not in the CIP.
Correct.
And when we're talking about the CIP, as we're planning this out, are we looking at a 3 or 5 year plan or
5 to 10.
5 to 10? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
So generally, the council will approve a 5-year CIP. But each of those projects generally also has to have council approval as we go through. So I'll take the Lions Park tennis court, for example. That is a 2021 project. While it's approved through the CIP, we still have to get, because of the cost, we still have to get Park and Rec council approval on a project like that. So the 1 year is sort of locked in. I won't say completely locked in because things change throughout the year, but those 2, 3, 4, 5 year, they can fluctuate, move around. A lot depends on how other projects, may need to get done. And then the next year we'll reapprove, or the council look at then the next 5-year CIP, redo it. But for this, we'll be looking at 10 years out.
Okay, so as we're doing a 10-year out, then the subsequent years should be easier after we've done this preliminary work, because we will have a plan. Doesn't mean that we might not add something or take something off or push something back, but we'll at least have the framework instead of starting like we did this time. Although we did have the past plan kind of to look at, we knew what some of those things on there were.
Right. And, it's certainly, things change, and, we always look for opportunities. The staff does for partnerships or, an opportunity with a construction project that, like the Lions Park side or the trail piece that was done last year. It was part of the county project. So we always look for those kind of opportunities, so things do sometimes get moved around, so.
And I just want to make a comment on, like, number 5, replace lights at Lions Park. I was thinking, to me, that was like, some of them I started realizing, some of them were maintenance, and some of them would like to do or enhancement, and some of them were contractual, but like the replace lights at Lions Park, I was thinking not security wise, but safety wise and contractual wise, because there are lights there now.
Those being, and I could have certainly been a little bit more clear on that, but those would be the ball field lights.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant. Replace. Yeah, at the ball field, and I thought, you gotta have them.
Yes.
So I was, because I went through and said, oh, this is a maintenance, this is a maintenance, this is a maintenance. And then that kind of, to me, that raised it up in priority because we got to do it.
Yep. And they're old, they still work, but they're old, and they're, and that's why we've kind of kept them in the CIP, just kept moving them out. So we're ready for it, because at some point they're going to need to be replaced, so.
Yeah. Of course, then there could be a partnership with maybe the Lions, I don't know. Let's hope.
Can I ask, do you have an estimate on the reasonable end of life of those lights?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you have an estimate on reasonably the end of life, the end of the serviceable life of those?
I'm guessing they're there now, but we just keep using them because they still work, so. But there's an energy efficiency factor that I think can come into play. One of the challenges that I have is they don't get used all that much. We're not doing adult leagues, it's only for youth. We've got the baseball field that some of the older kids and the Victoria Vics use. So it's kind of that use versus they're working versus energy efficiency versus, so we kind of look at all of that to determine when would be the appropriate time to do them, so.
So is it probably safe to say that items that we ultimately end up in tier 2 are still going to end up in the CIP, but they might be pushed out further?
Certainly.
At least some of the items like that, because I think, you know, to the question and to your comment, and it seems to me that we want to have a plan and know that the money's there, as opposed to, if it have to be replaced at some time, we have them in there. If we have to push them back a year or further ahead because they're still working or whatever, that's fine, but at least we've acknowledged it's there, so there's not a surprise, and we have to bump something else off our list that we wanted to have because we didn't plan for it, so. Other comments at this point before Ann continues?
And then moving into the final tier of the park project, so the outdoor pool and the indoor pool scored equally. So it looked like you guys got down to this part and you were all pretty even in your, generally. So we had a lot of ties going on in here. So adding ice rinks, Kirk Lock and Trailhead tot lot removal, all the same. New lights at D-Town and at Lions. The shelter at D-Town, which is in the CIP right now, got really pushed back. The Ninja Park, outdoor fitness park, Sledding Hill, and then the Poppets Field Grandstand Edition kind of rounded out those final projects, so.
Okay, so you'd like us to confirm questions?
Yep, so, yeah,
things around?
just wondering if there are any projects that members have questions on, that maybe you could use some clarification and that might change how you view a project. If not, that's fine too. There were a lot of them to get through. So, and then, yes, are there any projects on the list that should be discussed regarding the placement in the priority listing? And then hopefully we can come to some consensus on the final priority list of projects. So after we get through this, what the next steps will be, once we have that final list, I'm really going to probably focus on that top tier and get dollar figures for each one of those projects. Bring that back at the next meeting and kind of then lay out the 10-year Parks CIP with the dollar figures and what we're projecting that we'll have over the next 10 years to see where we can fit all those projects in. So we'll have to, you know, we'll have a certain dollar amount for year 2022, likely a certain dollar amount for 2023, because most of the money that is coming in comes from development. So, you know, we do have a little bit on hand that we'll be able to use, but then we're kind of projecting out probably at least into that by year 10, how much money we'll be having within that fund. So that's kind of where we'll go at the next meeting.
Okay, why don't we take question 1? Any projects that members have questions about?
Mine was a question about the Bayfront Plaza expansion. I mean, is there any plan for that, or it's just that people want to have something here, but is there anything structurally or
So
vision-wise, or?
we do have a plan for that area, and kind of a grading plan and a layout that was put together by Mr. Hartman that did the work down in this area. So we've got, I mean, if you kind of look at the little Bayfront Park over here with all the picnic tables, And then if you look down below where the bandstand is, it's going to look very similar to both of those. And it just cleans up that area that is existing today.
Okay.
So I've had conversations with Three Rivers Park District about it because that's their land.
Oh, okay.
And it was, we envisioned that there would be some fundraising associated with it. But then COVID hit and it just never got kicked off the ground, so, but that's kind of that one. But we do have plans for that.
That would be nice to finish that off, because it's a very nice area right now, and
Yeah.
I think that would cap it off, so.
Yeah, when I look at, the diversity, that really is a family thing, where people would be here. And then that brings, people more downtown. So I'm thinking, well, then the businesses would get some revenue off of that. So, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I almost, well, anyway, that's my comment on that. I really like that one. And the thing I would say about, I try, as I mentioned before, when I looked at diversity, I was looking at age. Is this mainly old people, young people, little kids? I looked at gender-wise. Does this affect mainly males or does this affect females? I looked at age. I looked at socioeconomic, because sometimes I don't realize that there sometimes is a socioeconomic, that people with money or more affluent play tennis. People who aren't affluent typically don't play tennis. So that's what I was looking at when I said diversity. I said, how do we, does this really bring in a large group, in different age brackets and that kind of thing? So what leads me to my question is, like now when I see the kids playing softball, I'm guessing, or baseball, is that high school teams? Is that community teams? Are there females that are playing ball? I'm assuming there are females that are playing soccer.
Yes. And so we have a youth program in the summer. We've got T-ball and coach pitch.
Yeah.
Younger kids, older kids, but there are girls that, it's a mix. They both male and female play on that. Once you start getting up into the I don't want to call them semi-pro, but they're the town team.
Yeah.
I don't know of any girl that plays on that team, but we have a lot of softball teams also that use our fields, that serves this area. So it's a mixed use. From the adult standpoint, though, we haven't had a adult league here for 12 years.
Is that because there's no interest? Or
Yeah, you see the numbers nationwide just going downhill. So, it's something we continue to look at, but, you have then, you don't want to build these huge ball complexes if you don't have the need for it, so, yeah.
The other questions on the first question for?
I think the thing that I would say, if you were calling, I'm a new resident in Victoria, and my perception is that really the two crown jewels of kind of the Parks and Rec of the area are the downtown Bayfront Plaza. So anything we can do to expand the appeal and expand the use, I think is wonderful. And we drive by that Lions Park complex all the time, and I see that it's used often. I see that it's used for many different groups, and that's just wonderful. I am curious, would you tell me about the boardwalk replacement trails? Where is that located, and help me understand the scope of that?
Sure. So we have, and we're getting more and more of them, boardwalks that are existing in developments where we have trail systems that go over water. So we have boardwalk in Watermark that goes from Watermark to Ambergate. We have, actually there's 2 or 3 of them in there now. We also have a boardwalk in our new Wasserman Lake Preserve. So at some point, you know, like the one that is in Watermark, it's probably, was probably constructed in 2000. So it's getting up there in its life. I anticipated we were gonna have to replace it sooner, but we did some maintenance to it, about a year or so ago. So I think we're good with that, but we'll need to look out into the future to make sure we've got some money for fixes and possible replacement on it, so.
Are they pretty short? I mean, what I'm envisioning is, you know, just a short little expansive boardwalk covering up. I mean,
I know that the one in the Watermark, from Watermark into Ambergate is, I'm taking a guess here, 150 to 200 feet. There's a smaller one in Ambergate that's probably 25 feet to 50 maybe. And then the one in, at Wasserman is almost 300.
Oh, goodness, thank you.
So, yeah, we had to cross over a huge wetland there, so.
Where in are just the regular trails going through maintenance and repair? Is that part of our purview, or is that Public Works? Or,
So, as far as just the maintenance of them,
you know, like, again, in my subdivision, winter has just, you know, there's lots of deep cracks,
Yep.
craters in them.
yep. So we have money within the general fund budgets that we use for the maintenance of them. So I wouldn't fit that into this category.
Wasn't it like 50,000 that you set aside a year?
Well, that's every 2 years, that's what we use for, like, the Lions Park piece that we extended. We've used them for gravel trails to blacktop them. So that's where that money goes. So within the general fund itself, we've got about 15,000 annually that we use for trail maintenance, so,
Okay,
but
good question.
we'll certainly take a look at that this year, because we've done some crack sealing.
Yeah, it's been repaired. I mean, other places on the trail have been repaired, but just today noticing there's some pretty deep.
Yeah.
The main thing is, I mean, cosmetically, who cares if there's, but some places there's actually little ledges, and it's easy to catch your toe and somebody's gonna go flying.
Yeah, winters are hard on
Yeah, I know that. It's
that kind of pavement,
a
that's
lot
for
of
sure.
heaving, I think.
Yeah, but we'll take a look at that, Judy.
Thank you.
Ann, on Tier 1 project rankings, could you describe number 7, the water access downtown, what that's about?
Sure, that one came from Claudio. He envisioned that there would be some sort of water access down here somewhere, whether that's a dock, trail access around the area. That's a challenging one too, because we don't own the land down here. So maybe the 13 and a half acres might give us a better opportunity. So it never was real specifically, specific and clear to me what, he just wanted some more water access downtown. So it's certainly something that, we're always looking at if we have opportunities. So Three Rivers owns most all the land around the lake, so it's somewhat challenging to do.
Other questions on the first question? If not, let's go to the second question, which is, are there any projects on the list that should be discussed regarding placement in the priority listing? So I imagine that means, are there some that were lower that we think should be higher, or some that are higher that we think should be lower? And again, I think everybody did their rankings the best they could, and I think the numbers, everybody starts with a base and scores everything different. So I think that the numbers, individual numbers somebody has might be how they base them, because I was looking at some of these, and I tend to rate everything lower and give room, and others higher, some lower, whatever. And so some things that one person might see as a priority might score lower, and somebody else score something higher, which really means it's lower because they score higher. So there's room here for discussion, and if we want to move something one way or another. So any comments?
Well, based on the comment about the water access, because I'm not, I didn't realize, I know you've told us before, Ann, and it just hasn't stuck in my mind that the water right around the lake is owned by Three Rivers. So I don't know if I would have the water access downtown so high up. I would almost move it down, because as they develop the 13 that gets developed, or as Three Rivers decides to do something, but I don't think I'd have it up in this tier 1,
Okay.
just because of timing and that we don't own the property.
I would tend to agree with you for that reason as well. I think that,
And I would agree with that as well.
okay.
I guess I wasn't remembering that was specifically here versus the 13 and a half acres. So somewhere along this stretch is what I
Yep.
thought I remember Claudia was saying, but it's up to, interpretation to what that means.
Yeah. I think it's all Three Rivers. So, maybe encouragement to them when it comes time to develop.
Yeah, and certainly they are, this is a, park reserve. And so they have parks and they have park reserves. And the park reserves, generally, they use the 80-20 rule. 80% stays natural and 20% gets developed. So when you look around Carver Park Reserve as it sits today, you've got the Lowry Nature Center, you have the boat launch, you got the campground, you have a lot of trails within their system, and they stick pretty well to that amount. So this was even a challenge. It took us 4 years to get this approved. So, not saying that anything is impossible, but I think that we'd have to look for an opportunity somewhere, whether that's development or partnership, versus having it as a priority for us. It would be challenging.
I agree with that. And then in addition, we do have Wasserman now where there is access to the water. I do share that concern with Claudio that that's one thing for me that's missing in Victoria. It's the city of Parks and Lakes, but you can't really get to the lakes. But Wasserman will change that. You can get right down to the lake now. But I just think, like you said, this location is probably not the place we're going to get that.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a general consensus to maybe move that down the list.
Can we look at tier 2? Can you pull that up, please?
One of the things I see on the tier 2, actually the first 2 items, to me, probably would move up on the tier ranking to tier 1. One is future park constructions. That's almost an obligation in a way, because as these developers come in, if they donate the land, then we put a park on it. Is that right, Ann? Or
Yes.
they can give us cash in lieu of. But so that may be a contractual type thing that we don't have a choice or a whole lot of choice on. And then land for community park. I think we're looking 10 years out. Victoria's growing rapidly. And I know over the last couple of years, it's come up periodically as the development goes, is that west?
South and
South,
west.
south and west. There's a lake out there that would be nice to, what's the name of that lake?
Pearson.
Pearson, okay. And it seems to me that land is going fast, and if we don't plan ahead, all of a sudden it's going to be gone, and we won't have much of a choice. So It seems like if we could acquire the land, we at least are in position to do something with it, as opposed to trying 10 years from now, trying to find land.
In other words, trying to come in the back door.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, personally, I think those two items should be tier 1 items. Other comments that others may have on items here that feel should move up or down on the tier 2 rankings.
Well, and there's land, excuse me, land in, that the city of Victoria owns currently, true, that we don't really have to purchase.
No, we don't own any
We
land,
don't own anything,
not south, or on Pearson's.
not around anywhere there.
Nope.
How about down at like, that 10 and 11?
No, the city sold that land a number of years ago.
Okay, okay. I was just gonna say, if there's land that the city owns, then we need to keep that as much as we can under control, but, you know, if it's a matter of purchasing plots of land right now, that's probably pretty much out of the financial realm of anything.
Yeah.
I mean, what land prices
Right.
are going for.
You know, some of the hope might be, I have no idea who owns the land out there, but when somebody sells a farm or a lot of land, there's tax implications, and one way for them to avoid some of the taxes is to make a donation. So there might be some opportunities for somebody to, in essence, have the federal and state government help subsidize it by donating it and not having to pay those taxes themselves. So there might be,
If it's a family
Right.
trust that
Right.
doesn't want to, the probate or the taxes, the
right.
inheritance taxes.
So there may be some potential there. I don't know, but,
Yeah.
I agree that when I saw that, I went, well, future park construction is almost part of the CIP. That goes with the developments and that, so I thought, I would think that'd have to be in tier 1, those two. And actually, then when I look at land for Lions Park expansion, keep thinking of those houses that are on that corner there. I'm kind of going, tell me someday we could just finish off that whole corner.
okay. Other comments, anything up or down?
Well, just one more thing, again, talking about, as you mentioned, developers that come in, like the gentleman we heard from, I guess it was last meeting. I mean, he wanted to give us this much space, and maybe we should look to hold these developers' feet to the fire a little bit more, because they'll put in, six houses and get 500,000 apiece or more, and then say, oh, here's 200,000, so we don't have to put a park in. And we're giving up land. There's certainly, once the land is developed, once there's houses on it, we're done. We can't go back and reclaim anything. So it might be important to, not let developers kind of skate out of their obligation to keep some green space for parkland.
Okay. Other comments? Mary, anything else?
No, I agree with all that.
Okay. June, anything?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Don, anything?
The land,
Okay.
particularly the land.
Okay, so looks like there's maybe those two maybe moving up,
We might have 12 in tier 1.
or is there something else that we want to?
Well, yeah, so we'd move, whoops, wrong tier. Water access will go down, and then 1 and 2 up. That's what I've got now from you guys.
Okay,
Yeah, that works.
all right. So we want to go to tier 3. Anything on there? I guess we can't go down any farther.
Unless you want tier 4.
Oh, we have enough years.
Anything on there that we feel should be rated higher?
Well, I'll just share my experience. I decided to reach out to my neighbors on getting some feedback on this because, I'm an empty nester and my viewpoint is different than somebody who's got little kids, right? And I'm in Lake Town, which is surrounded with families with little kids. hands down, a pool was across the board of about a dozen families, a pool. And so then I said, okay, if you had to choose between an indoor pool and an outdoor pool, what would it be? And they were split on that. And splash pad was up there too, so water obviously is it. But I did get some background on the history of pools in Victoria from Ann. I did a little bit of reading online as well. There was some resident interest in it a few years ago, did a study, the millions of dollars that it takes to build a pool, with having to fundraise for that and not, city coming up with all that, it was too much of a barrier. So I don't know if you want to share any more about that. I just think it's worthwhile talking about the pools because my neighbors are like, yep, if I had to choose one thing that either could be improved or is missing in Victoria, it would be a pool. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to answer any questions about it. We did do a study. I want to say it was back in 2016, I think. We had one of the park committee members was kind of the leader of the task force. And she had a group of residents, small group of residents that were on the committee. We hired a firm to look at location, uses, whether, for programming, location, costs. So at the time, I mean, the recreation center was the preferred location for this project, and the dollar figures that came in for the outdoor pool was about $6 million, 6.2 million, and then the indoor pool was about 14 million. So there just wasn't the appetite at the council at that time to pursue. In order to do it, you'd have to do a referendum in order to get it built. And we've done enough community surveys to realize that, yes, everybody wants one, but nobody's willing to pay for one. And we were talking $6 million. And I'm sure at some point, when there are enough people in town that people might be willing to do that. But so far, we haven't found an appetite for that yet. Pools don't make money. It's just like the rec center and ice. They don't make money. You can program all you want, but you have one bad day, one bad week, one bad month for an outdoor pool. And the weather here is so unpredictable that, 1 year you might be open for 60 days, the next you might be open for 30, So those are all things that you have to keep in mind when you take on pools and, the long-term maintenance of equipment and the cost to upkeep and the staffing, and it's a huge investment and endeavor for a community to go down that path. So.
Is there any opportunity to share with other communities? I'm guessing indoor pools, I'm guessing through the school district that there's maybe access to some indoor pools. Outdoor, I don't know if Chaska or Chanhassen or Waconia, if any of them have pools, but maybe as we're looking at new land development in the future, that we work with other communities and see if we can't share that, because I think we're all fairly close here. I suppose it can end up being political as who gets it and X, Y, Z. But it seems like, if we had an outdoor pool, I'm sure those people from the other communities would be coming because it's not that far to come, and vice versa, that people from Victoria would go to if they have to drive 5 miles to an outdoor pool, they'll probably go even though it's in a different community. So maybe something in the future to think about.
Something to think about. So we did several years ago, we did partner. We were able to partner with Waconia with Safari Island, where we were able to buy resident priced passes for people in Victoria. We thought it would go over real well, and it didn't really. But we reach out, we've reached out to Chaska, with their pool and facility for that matter, to try to have some sort of reciprocity. And, once you cross lines, it becomes a bit more complicated and challenging, but something to certainly think about.
Because Chan does not have a pool, does it? And then when you look at the population of Chaska, which is, what's the,
25-ish,
yeah, and we're sitting at,
10-ish.
yeah, so I would think at some point, I mean, I'm all in favor of an indoor pool. I can't for the life of me see why we'd have an outdoor pool in Minnesota. But an indoor pool with a splash pad, when we have the population to support it, would be certainly something, the community would like to have, I would love to have, but I don't think we have the population base to support it right now.
Not right now, I don't think so either. I was surprised that the splash pad scored higher than the pools. I don't know, I just wanted to get feedback from you guys on that.
Well, when I look at it, splash pad is real easy, because it's just outside, at least you're not filling up thing, and it's something easy for toddlers and little kids to do. So I'm wondering sometimes, is there a way to, didn't they do it in the summer, like have something outside, like with sprinklers or something?
We had the fire trucks.
Yeah. I mean, for us to do more of that would be,
We do that a couple.
Pulling down the kids.
Yeah, and we usually have water week at, we've got, our summer playground programs. We do water week, and then we do the pop-up splash pad a couple times
yeah.
with the fire department, so.
But there's no way I would ever see an outdoor pool.
And as I was on the committee when they were presenting it, we had, so you recall, some salesmen, basically, pool salesmen, and they did a huge big spreadsheet, huge big PowerPoint thing, and the bottom line is, my takeaway was, for the price, as Ann said, talking $6-7 million for this outdoor pool, and it was a very small pool. And if you're talking about something that's going to serve the community, our community plus other, I mean, it would have been, on a hot summer day, the place would have been a zoo. I mean, there would have been way too many kids trying to get in, trying to swim, and how do you swim when you're elbow to elbow in a pool? And then conversely, bad, rainy, cold summer weeks, which we have, nobody shows up. So it was, it really put a degree of skepticism. Is this really the direction we want to go? And so,
All of a sudden,
and the liability, which is a huge thing, would be no diving boards. Oh no, can't have diving boards, and have to have shallow this end and not too deep on that end. It would basically be like a big play pool. Certainly nothing that you'd get out there and really do some serious swimming.
I'll share a perspective. We came from Burnsville, and in their heart of the city, kind of their core development, they had, it was next to, a performance center, but they had a city park that was developed, and it had like stone benches, and there were little streams running through, and there were fountains that would come up. So it functioned as a kind of a splash pad for little kids. If you're there as an adult, you can dip your feet in the water. But it pulled people from the area just to come and, sit on the benches, or sit on the stone benches and enjoy the water, enjoy the sound of the water. And so that really functioned as kind of a, as a hybrid space. And so there was no need for lifeguards. The liability would be pretty low, but it gave you that sense of being, interacting with water, right? Without kind of probably the expense of like a pool, as an example.
I was just going to say that the thought I had was, Chan has Foss Swim School. It would be nice, if the Foss Swim School would build a facility out here, you know, then there's swimming lessons and that kind of thing. And I don't know, there was a commercial, and I mean, I'm surprised the building is not that big. But if
They're tiny.
yeah, they're tiny, but you know, they're well used. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think they've got well, they have to, from a business model, you know, and private business model, they have to be small and compact.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, good discussion. And I think it was important for us to talk about it because it has been brought up in the city and neighbors and people. So it's good to talk about it. And now we know when we get asked that question that how to answer.
And you know, I lived in Eden Prairie for 30 years, and we did a referendum for outdoor pool, and that did not pass. And that city has, you know, really nice amenities, and they couldn't get that to pass there either. And granted, they have indoor pools, but outdoor one just didn't have any appetite for it there. So.
Okay, any other things going up or down on the list?
I'm just curious, have you assigned a budget, like, to each of these projects? You have an estimated cost?
A majority of them, yes. So I will bring that back to you guys next month. And then we'll start playing up, down with, you know, what year based on those dollars available.
Done, we talked about, at our last meeting, we talked about not putting the dollar amount on to start with, because we didn't want to have cost only, put something up or down at this point initially, because if something is high on the list and we find out it costs some later, we may come up with some creative ways to get there, whereas we just looked at the cost to start with, it would never make tier one probably. So,
Understood. Yeah,
so,
understood.
but good question.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, my thought process is there anything on, you know, lower in the list that would be relatively low cost, a relatively low cost initiative that would bring a high value? And, you know, the question that I have is, you know, there was, one of the items was the proposed idea of building a picnic shelter. You know, and so maybe it doesn't seem like there'd be much cost to maintain that once it's in place. Would that really benefit that area? I don't know, but I'm curious about that.
Okay, well, that might be something you're gonna come up with the cost of, are you gonna come up with the cost of first and second tier, or all of them?
Yes, all of them.
All of them, okay.
And they will be, they're certainly not going to be probably within $5, but they should be within a reasonable amount.
Okay.
Because a sledding hill could be a challenge to try to figure out what that's gonna cost.
I think
If it's a big flat piece of land, that's a lot of dirt.
it's,
And if you're gonna make snow for the city.
Right. So,
Buck Hill like.
one other question before we go from question 2. On tier 3, the Ninja Park, I mean, I think I'm well beyond my ninja years, but it seems that, is that something that would attract, you know, younger kids up through middle school, high school? And I wonder if something like that would be an amenity that would keep kids active in our parks as opposed to not having things to do.
I liked it from the perspective of if you're a kid who doesn't play soccer, doesn't play baseball, but you like this kind of stuff. I know a neighbor kid who's, I think he's first grade. He's not really into ball sports, but he loves this whole ninja thing. But there are private industries that have the indoor ninja courses that you can do. I'm not aware of any. And this was an outdoor one, I'm assuming, where you were thinking, Ann, or we thought when we came up with this, an outdoor one.
I don't completely understand the concept. It's kind of like a race through.
Well, it's all these obstacles that you
Okay.
get through. I called it it's an obstacle course, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
and I think that you know, could certainly, as we move through some of the new development, of parks, you could look at the different types of equipment versus our standard, I'll say, playground piece, that there might be a spot for an outdoor ninja court that,
Yeah,
you could look at with that development.
okay. All right. Anything else before we move on? Consensus, you want a consensus on the final priority list? Or
I think I have them, so just let me recap. So the water access is going to be moved down. The future park construction and land for community park is going up.
Correct.
And that's the only items that I know of that are moving up or down.
Okay, and then I assume some of these other things in tier 2, like the ball fields and soccer fields, we have enough presently, but maybe down the line, we can take another look at that, so they don't get overrun with, or people can't access. Okay,
Well, and so many things, for me, ended up being tied together. For example, if we move the future park construction or land for community park, or some of that there may be a ball field and a soccer field in that new thing. So it's, to me, it's like, well, how do I separate those? So those would go hand in hand.
okay, so we have a consensus. You need we have a consensus, we don't need a motion.
Nope, not till,
Not till next-
we'll be doing that at next time.
Okay,
So we finished the final list today. Next month, we'll provide the draft budget figures for each of the projects. We will review and hopefully make a recommendation on those final projects. And then the chair and or vice chair will be asked to present not only the final park priorities to the city council, but so a recap of kind of the work we've been doing along Berry Trail, Wasserman, just to provide an update. So Larry has kindly agreed to do that on June 28th.
okay, thank you on that item. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the Rolling Hills Park Concept Plan that we talked about a couple meetings ago, and we have an update.
Right, so this is the Rolling Hills Development, County Road 11, Marsh Lake Road. This was the area, actually it includes this little piece as well. But this was the park that was located along County Road 11 here. So this was just the draft concept plan. We utilize a neighborhood park standard that includes a court, a picnic shelter, play equipment, parking lot, and then open field. So staff provided the developer with the dimensions of those. So this was their first kind of crack at making this park usable. So it's going to sit down. You can see kind of the grade. It's going to end up sitting down lower than County Road 11. And then we'll do some landscaping along the top piece here, and then there's the trail. But I think it will fit in nicely within that neighborhood area. We're still working on some tweaks, whether this needs to be shifted in an east-west direction or north and south. But it just gives people and us an opportunity to say, yes, these are the things that will fit in there when it comes time to develop. We usually meet with the neighborhood or get a lot more detailed site plan than this when we go to park construction. So I just wanted to show you guys that from that little piece of land that you recommended approval on to this next step. So happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions? Okay, if not, thank you, Ann. We'll move on. Other business, Ann was kind enough to send out some articles of interest that spur our thoughts. So some good ones in there if you haven't had a chance to read them. It's a good thing to do. Some challenges it looks like some cities are going through with some of their amenities. And then that was just for our information. And then we have the Recreation Center membership update.
So a lot has changed in a matter of days. I had my memo done, and posted already, and then Friday, the governor decides to make some additional changes. It always seems to be on a Friday when this happens. So we ended up, following the governor's, following the CDC and the governor's recommendation on vaccinated people not having to wear masks within the facility. I waited and waited for him to sign the executive order. But we checked in with Chaska, Chanhassen, all the fitness clubs and facilities around us went on Friday. So we followed suit Friday and made it effective Friday afternoon. So we actually have continued to lose members. I think we lost another 31 in this past month from moving and/or nice weather, COVID. So, we are still seeing some numbers dropping. And I anticipate too with the weather getting nicer that we're going to see a lot less visits. The fitness numbers are still up. And I expect those numbers to actually increase because we're now going to be able to go back to in-person. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for that to happen the past year. So we're going to be looking at a fall membership drive. Hopefully that will get through the summer. And so Holly and I are going to be working on that over the next couple months to lay out a plan for a renewed membership drive in the fall. So unfortunately, we are continuing to lose members, and we will be going to summer hours starting this Saturday. Monday through Thursday will be open from 5 a.m. until 9 p.m. Friday will be open from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then Saturdays and Sundays 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we're going to be reducing staff costs, and we're just not seeing the numbers at night like we have. So we will be doing that starting this Saturday.
Okay, any questions on that for Ann? Okay, well, we've come to the end. So is there a motion to it?
Just a couple little things.
Okay.
I want to make sure you guys are, and I will send out an invite to this, but we've already discussed next meeting. June 9th, we're going to be starting concerts in the park down here. We'll have them every Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 o'clock. On June 28th, we were going to be having the ribbon cutting at Wasserman Lake Preserve that you are all invited to. That will be at 4 o'clock. And again, I'll send out a meeting invite for that. And then the city council meeting that evening is when we've got Larry scheduled for an update. So
Are they gonna be able to do the classic car?
yes, classic car is scheduled.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Good.
So their first one will be June 9th too.
Oh, good. That'll bring
And
a lot of people.
I would just like to encourage the rest of the committee to be at the city council meeting on the 28th, just to be supportive, and then unless there's other questions. But I just be a support to you, Larry, as you present, but in case there's other questions, and let them all know that we're all in support and
Certainly.
together. So I would encourage all of us,
And hopefully,
come if we can.
the ribbon cutting as well.
Oh, yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
ask,
absolutely.
Is that the Wasserman Preserve, is that like near the boat launch off of Church Boulevard?
Yeah.
Is that where it is?
It's just, yeah, it's a little bit further south and west of the boat launch.
Okay, so further on Church Lake.
Yep.
Okay.
Is it the official opening of the park coincide with the ribbon cutting, or do you think it might open before?
I think it may open before, where they're gonna be doing the, final lift paving of the parking lot tomorrow. So they've been really trying to button things up, so we're hopeful it'll be that first part of June, when everything is done.
How will that be communicated to those?
I likely will do a press release. We're probably gonna be looking at also a, grand opening sometime summer-ish.
I'd love to spread the word to my
Yeah.
development. get them-
Yeah. People are already using it, I can tell you that.
Are they?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of dependent on weather and, everything got done, but I know they're trying to wrap up for that first part of June-ish, so.
Okay. Any other announcements? If not, motions in order to adjourn. Okay, motion's been made.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Yeah. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.